Random Active Squirrel. Today is kind of a part two, but so if you're curious about this and feel like you want to know what the rest of the context is, it was on Act 34, so I'll leave you paired up that way. But it is Act 35. It's Know Your Role, Know Your Stage. So Act 34 was, I have a sheet right here, this one, which was the 7 basic story archetypes and the rule of 3. And I started kind of building on the idea of, if you look at like the structure of story, look at the structure of elements that you put in the story, it reveals a lot about what's being transferred and that kind of stuff. I explored the 7 types, which again, all this stuff is on the previous video, but kind of want to start back to go forwards, I guess. While I was in college, there was about half or so of my time was spent being as a theater major. And I may have said this before, but it's one of the things I used to say to myself a lot, but I think it bears repeating. He was a theater director. I was in a couple plays, never had big roles, but he was always like, know your place, get to your place, get to your mark. It's okay if you forget the lines, but for you to be useful, for you to be where I need you to be so the lights can shine right and this play can move right, I need you to hit your mark. And hit your mark for me has kind of become a theme that I run in my life a lot. There's times when I don't know what's going on, I'll just simply look and be like, I need to be that way, I think, or maybe it's a little more that way, I don't. But I don't exactly know why. I look at it and realize that in some level, stage direction says I need to get to a certain place. One of the things I think is important also, and that's kind of where this one's going to walk into, is know the role you're playing in life. Shakespeare overly famously has written all of life as a stage, and we are mere actors, and that's about as much Shakespeare I'll probably quote today, so you don't have to be too frightened about this. This one's not going to be as metaphysically deep and all this kind of stuff as the last one. It's more me hitting a couple things that I think are important and extrapolating out. And then the last part will be me kind of tying up all of 34, part of 35, into probably something that in my head sounds grand and brighter and more brilliant than it probably is. But if you like it, go ahead and make comments on it, see if it's helpful, or if you disagree with it, go ahead and even comment there. I'd love to hear that too. Dialogue is a cool thing. I like that. I think one of the biggest problems I noticed in life is people get lost and don't realize that the story of their life and the way they're living it don't match. And at some level it causes feedback. Like if you've ever watched a movie and you can tell like this actor is really thinking they're in a comedy and they're in a serious drama, and it just never plays right. Or like someone who's in a horror movie and they think they're funny, or they're playing it too serious in a camp horror movie and it just looks bad. That's part of what I'm going to talk about here. And that's know your story, know the stage that you're on. The other half I'm trying to bring up is know your role. And this I think we can actually control. I don't think we can always control the story we're in. I think sometimes life has this thing where it puts us in a place and says, you're going to be in this place whether you like it or not. There's a little bit of fudging you can do, but I think that track can be kind of hard sometimes. But I do think you can control the role that you play, or at least control how you play that role in life. So now let's extrapolate, I guess. Sometimes we have to look in the narratives in our life and say, what do we aspire our life to be? So if you have those basic stories, are you in a hero quest? Are you, and this is the first half, we'll get the second half in a moment. Are you a hero quest? Are you a beating the monster? Are you on a voyage? Are you in a tragedy? Are you in a comedy? And how you perceive the world is going to determine how you act. It's going to determine even more than it's like what style it is or what your role is in your life, because that's going to determine how you have to move. It's the core foundation to what you are. The second part that comes into is, what is your story? So you can have a quest, a hero quest, but if it's got horror tones, it's going to be a lot different feel than if it's melodrama or if it's a comedy, because the pratfalls are going to be different, the conflicts will be different, or even if it's a kids movie. I mean, imagine taking the same story of you're looking for the boogeyman under your bed, and one is an Eli Roth slasher horror movie, and the other one is, I don't know, let's say it stars like the team that made Shrek. The monster's going to be entirely different. You're Or even if you get someone who's socially applicable, they're going to treat that monster completely different. And that's where the tone is so important to me. Because if your tone is wrong, if you're in the wrong story, you're just going to read all the elements differently. And then eventually, if you read those elements, your life kind of acquiesces to it. I heard at one point some guy was playing with sound. He got fascinated with how things turned into music. And he put something into a loop. And after a while, it jarred and sounded weird. But after about 20, 30 seconds, it started developing a mental rhythm. I think this is a big reason why people get lost in bad relationships or bad decisions, is they can't see a way out, because as uncomfortable as life is, it becomes known, and there's a sort of known bad comfort that occurs from that. So if you're viewing your life as a horror story, but then you become too scared to get out of it, you're going to start reacting like it's a horror story. You're going to start doing things out of fear. You're going to be more rational. You're going to become like that person you laugh at on the horror screen, where you make really stupid decisions and split up when you're not supposed to split up, or hide in the tool shed where you know that the bad guy was doing their stuff. If you view life as a comedy, you might not take it as seriously as you should. And sometimes you may have to step back and realize it's real. Or sometimes we may look at it as like a really bad Lifetime melodrama, and suddenly we're making every single molehill into a mountain. But we are so engaged into our own story that we can't see past it. But of course it's epic. It's not. You made it epic. Sometimes it really is that epic. I mean, go back a year, take the first 3 months. I didn't inflict any of this stuff on me. I tried to react as good as I could, but when Digital Girl goes to the hospital 4 or 5 times in 3 months, it's going to affect the narrative that we live for the year. And then when she comes back and she has to recover from it, I'm going to have to adjust and recover to that too. And then when you have a job that disappears that you didn't expect, you're going to have to recover too. You can't live in the false narrative, the happy land, before this stuff happens. I think that bleeds into the second point I want to make. Know your role. I had a teacher who diagrammed sentences in 9th grade. She was like that classic, I don't even think they make teachers like that anymore in school, but she was like that trained by the ones in the 60s, and very, if she had rulers, she might use it, but it was more, you will learn this, and if you don't learn it, it's your fault, not mine. I will stay late to teach you, all this kind of stuff. But she diagrammed sentences. And sometimes people see themselves as the subject, sometimes they see them more like the action, and sometimes they see themselves like the direct object. Sometimes you see yourself as like the hero, or like which technically speaking is the protagonist. You're the one driving the story. Another one is the antagonist, which is the thing that's fighting against the motion of the story. And sometimes you're the direct object. You're the prize. And depending how you view yourself, and this is hard for me because going through like job hunting and how one of the hardest, weirdest moments for me is when I go and do stuff to help at a memory care unit. I watch how compassionate I can be, and when I wear that hat of being compassionate helper there. And then I come up, and what really kills me every time is how I end up in stupid fights almost consistently when I get back. And what kills me most about it is I don't think it's mostly Digital Girl's fault. I think it's me. Because I get so amped up on how I can be good at that, and I come in, and it's a different hat. I was a service hat there, and now I'm a spousal hat, and I'm not playing the right role. I'm not saying the lines right. I'm not doing the actions properly. I'm missing my marks. And then she reacts to the fact that I'm doing those things. And then I react to that, and suddenly you're in a spot going, how did I end up here? I think the problem when people start viewing themselves more and more passively from like the person doing the action to the reason the action exists is dangerous is because the further you put yourself away from the action, the more you can start believing in things like fate and destiny and that it's not your fault. And sometimes it's not your fault. Sometimes it is your fault. Sometimes you have to react to things that just occur. But if you constantly live in a world that says, well, I can't have control over that, you're in a rudderless boat of a life. And wherever you end up is going to be where you end up, which is usually path of least resistance and usually not good. I've met a few people who I think they apply more effort than I see, but you look at their life and realize they didn't get there by heavy lifting. They got there because the currents pulled them there. And the sad thing is they don't even realize it. They just kind of kept moving. The danger of being like that active person is that if you constantly think you can change everything, and this is a problem for me, is sometimes there's things in life you can't change. Sometimes there's things that you have to accept and understand and learn and work with. And so watching a healing spouse is a huge one for me because I know what I would do if I was in that spot, but the reality is that she gets there because of who she is. I get to where I do my problems because of where I'm at. And sometimes stepping back is hard. So in that sentence part, that's a huge thing. If you view that the whole world's around you and you start shifting that sentence, like I said, sentence, verb, direct object, all the way it's all about you, that's dangerous too. And I suppose balance is the most important thing I'm walking into this. Because if you start thinking it's all about you, it's skewed at best and pretentious at worst. Because I've met very few people important enough that it really is all about them. I've noticed everyone's more worried about themselves than you. So if you start living in this little bubble where you think it's only about you, your skew is going to be really, really bad. You're going to start thinking the whole world's doing things because you wanted to be in that lane or it's trying to slow you down. And I think the world's just moving sometimes. I think it does happen that way too. And I think sometimes we ask for trouble. I think that leads into the role though too, which is I think the last part, and then I'm going to tie the bow up on this. As mentioned earlier, my goal is to try to make these shorter, more concise. And that is, what role are you playing in your life? Are you the hero? Are you the anti-hero? Are you the sidekick? If you're the hero or the protagonist, that means that things happen to you, but you can also control the story. The story is about you. If it's your life, I think more often than not, you should be the protagonist. I've met a lot of people, weird as it sounds, that they're the antagonist to their own story. They're constantly fighting something, and it's like, it's weird, like you'll see it once I describe it, but like they're always against themselves. And they're always fighting their better interests. They're always kind of beating themselves up before they get to the cause. And then afterwards, they say they're a victim, and it's horrible to be them. I've met a lot of people who are sidekicks, and they're the secondary characters, and it's kind of weird watching that too because you never drive your life. The sidekick doesn't make choices. The sidekick is always just kind of going along with things, and that's kind of the dirty part of where you get into fate. You almost become like a prize, and that's dangerous because I believe you've been endowed with a certain level of free will. Even if you're playing a crappy role, like how many people have you seen in bad movies, but you can tell they are busting their chops, saying, I have a bad script with a horrible director, but I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure my role is good. And you're not going to let me take it. You're not going to be taken down by it. And you can tell when you watch it because you're like, wow, that was really cool. I liked that person. And maybe that's kind of where I want to start tying it up, but it kind of takes the two thoughts I had and hopefully puts it together. If you're feeling lost, which I'll be honest, I am right now, which is probably why 1 and 2 is getting made. And I think 3 is going to be probably a movie review or book review thing. So for those that finished through here, thank you for your patience. Hopefully media stuff is a little more exciting. So I fear not, there's more media stuff coming up. As mentioned on the video earlier, yesterday for me, but on the video before, I am looking at trying to start the idea of Moments with Squirrel, which is going to be some shorts, which will be, like I said, 1 to 2 minute movie reviews, book reviews, maybe cool things I saw during the day, stuff like that. If you have current themes or ideas you want me to poke at with that one, go ahead and leave that in the comments also. I think the bow in all of it is that at some point, awareness is all I'm trying to say. It's where I'm at in life. And honesty about the awareness of where you're at. Realizing when things suck, but realizing you can do something about it. Realizing what the better goal is sometimes. Realizing that maybe being selfless for a half hour now will save you 2 days worth of headaches. And then having the strength or courage to step up and be like, you know what? I'm going to sacrifice that time here because it's going to be worth it. But that's kind of where I'm starting to take it. If you have listened to both of these, I would love to hear what you're getting out of it. Maybe there's some beautiful BS in here that you found profound, which would actually make me feel very, very happy. But otherwise, if you like what you're hearing here, same old thing here. Go ahead and hit the like button. Any cool comments, go ahead and put them down in the box. And if you haven't subscribed, I am looking to add some more subscribers. My goal is now to 20. I got past 10. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Otherwise, thank you for your time and have a very good day. Bye.